Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 17, the Hearings Panel report on Lincoln Road peak hour bus lane proposal. And I'd invite Sarah Templeton, who chaired the panel, to introduce this report, please.
Great, thank you very much. Just moving to the right one, move through those more quickly. So this is relatively straightforward. You'll notice that it's quite a period of time in between the consultation and the hearings panel and this coming to council, and that's because we had a staff member who was our hearings panel advisor who was then seconded into other work and has now left the organisation, and so this is coming here now. It was relatively straightforward. Submissions were generally in favour. It's the middle of 3 sections of work. The first is approved and underway on Lincoln Road at the city end, and the third's going to be delivered by Waka Kotahi. The submissions were predominantly in favour of the bus lanes and times of operation, and the panel is recommending these to council, but they weren't generally in favour of the proposal for them to operate on Saturdays. And the panel is not recommending that go ahead, but it may need to sometime in the future, and the infrastructure will be there for it to do. We heard from quite a few submitters, and we did offer one an opportunity to submit additional material, but that wasn't taken up. We had a site visit where the panel and staff walked the length of the section of road under consideration on both sides, checking the plans against submission points and real-life experience. We were aware of the concern around trees, but it soon became evident that most of those deemed technically trees by the arborist would not be considered trees worthy of saving by most, and the additional trees being planted more than offset them. There's 36 going and 72 going back in, and if you look at page 482 in the agenda onwards, you can see the what I'd call shrubs, but are technically trees in the arborist's report. There are some proper trees that people would consider trees, and there are fewer trees coming out than were originally in the plan once we went through it. This is not a cycleway project, it's a bus lane project, although people, like most bus lanes, will be able to bike in them. But people did express concern about cycle safety in a couple of areas, so we did recommend some small sections of cycle lane be added at intersections, and some green paint in several places, and also 2 shared path sections on the footpath to connect the Norwest Arc major cycle route to Curlitz Road. There's no hard infrastructure for that, just some paint, and one of those sides is where a school used to be, and so there's currently no infrastructure there at the moment. There's a recommendation to talk to the Ministry for Education to make that slightly wider, so it's a proper shared path width, but at the moment that'll be really good. There were also a lot of submissions asking for pedestrian safety enhancements along there, many of which we've incorporated into the design with support from staff. Several businesses expressed a concern about parking restrictions or turning restrictions and access for delivery vehicles, and we were mostly able to accommodate these through extending the time restrictions to what had been asked for, as requested, and actively working with submitters to find alternatives for other things. So that's about it. Yeah, questions?
Excellent, thank you. So are there any questions on this? Sam?
I don't know if it's for Sarah or for the staff.
It might be, yeah.
4.8, it's got 61 submitters did not indicate a preference. What was the rationale behind that?
So some submitters ticked yes or no, and some just made comments that were kind of, this about a tree or this about something else. So it wasn't particularly
Right.
And some had comments on times, but not infrastructure, that kind of thing. So they did that.
So it looks like 50-50 then on under 4.84 or against it on that basis. If you were to remove the ones that didn't indicate a preference.
They didn't. Hi, Sam from the engagement team. They didn't make a preference, but they would have commented on the other aspects along the corridor.
Right. Yeah. It's just.
So in principle, they weren't against it. It was just more relating to other comments on infrastructure or other parts of the PT priority.
I guess it's just when the stuff comes through, and I don't know whether it's the report or how it's been written, but it is good to just get a flavour of if there are other comments, whether they are in support or not.
But I think what the report is saying quite clearly is there were comments
Correct.
that were neither in support nor in opposition. They didn't indicate a preference. They simply made comments.
Yeah,
and
and it
that's
may
what
have
I've heard
been-
from the chair of the panel and from the staff.
Yeah.
So that's genuinely the case. They were
Yeah,
just
like-
comments,
Yeah.
no indication of a preference in those comments.
Yeah, and so some of them were things like, could you put in a pedestrian crossing or something like that, rather than a comment on the bus lane itself.
So were they-
So
I'm
it
just trying to
varied. Yeah.
understand though I thought you just said it was they weren't opposed to it.
It's neither in support or against.
Right.
It's it was literally to do with certain specific comments on other parts of the route.
Right.
So
Yeah. So,
So we don't make an assumption that people are in support
Correct.
unless they say that they're in support.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay.
And
So on that it looks
Yeah,
50-50.
sometimes you can get what they're saying, but you don't want to put words in their
Yeah.
mouth.
No, that's cool. I was just trying to understand if you remove them and it does look sort of 50-50.
I do
Okay,
get,
thank
yeah,
you.
I do get that. Like, it does look different whether you take out all of those who didn't express a preference. Yeah, the statistics would be different. And I know that's frustrating sometimes with our submissions when people will go, well, there's a group who didn't express a preference, there's those who support, those against, and sometimes people will go, oh, look, only such and such were in support, or only such and such were against. And I think we just need to make sure that all of the stats are there all the time. Yeah.
One other question, maybe for staff again. So the whole budget's 12 mil. What's this one specifically?
for the budget.
Yeah.
So that's for upgrading as well as undergrounding the existing
Oh, sorry.
poles.
Yeah. No, what I was meaning was for this particular, like Sarah talked about, for this particular patch of the.
That's the
Right.
that's
It's
the
a
12 million.
It is 12
that's
million.
the 12 million. Yes. So that includes undergrounding because electricity needs to be undergrounding along the whole route,
Right.
as well as property purchases on the southern side. So that's in the full budget.
So 12 million for. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yanni.
Thank you. So I was just reading in the arborist report. Is basically just on page 465, it says, in this case, 44 trees are to be removed, and the draft landscape plans include the planting of 88 new trees, and expected that the canopy cover will be increased within 20 years. So is that basically saying that we won't get back to the level of canopy coverage we have for 20 years? If we
So as
take
part
down
of
the
the tree policy, yes, it needs to be established within the 20 years. I can't comment on whether it's now 10 years or 11 years. It's just the policy states up to the 20-year life cycle. So it's so we went also on the tree selection was part of this, and we've asked comments on it. So in some of them should be earlier, but it's just as per the policy, it's within 20 years, the tree canopy.
It was interesting that this is the one thing that the one thing that the panel took really seriously, and we looked at seriously. We went and stopped by every tree in our site visit, and some of them, as I say, weren't really trees; they were shrubs, and you can see that in the report there. And fewer trees will be coming out now than were originally planned. Some of the trees are actually in really poor health. A couple of the bigger ones, and would need to be coming down at some point anyway, because they would be a danger at some point.
So, Sarah, I think from your comments now and from your introductory remarks, we can be assured that the panel took the tree issue very seriously and had a very thorough consideration of the trees matter in general.
Yeah, and you must remember as well that the purpose of this project is to make the bus lanes themselves and people catching the bus more attractive, and lowering emissions by having fewer fossil fuel cars on the road is actually a better solution than trees, because you need to lower them, not just capture what's
I was interested in the large size tree.
we tried really hard.
Where that one is, and also
Which
is
one?
that-
Which page?
is that so this is on page 459, and is the one large size tree, is that in poor condition, or what sort of condition is that tree in?
The one in the road corridor was in really poor condition. There was, well, you can see one in the road corridor and one in reserve. So there were 7 trees in good condition on CCC land. Now there are those 7 are sitting in front of a set of shops. They're very beautifully manicured round trees, and actually may be able to be shifted because of the position that they're in, and they're probably sellable because of the very manicured shape that they have. And so we've specifically asked for staff to try and make that a reality.
Yeah, sorry, I get all that. I was just trying to understand where that. So I've looked at the maps, and sorry, I can't seem to locate where the big mature tree is.
Correct. So some of the trees, Councillor, is within the road corridor, and that's where we need to widen it.
Yeah.
So, and that will be offset with the new central median where all the new trees will be planted. So the streetscape will be very similar to between the Wrights and and Moorhouse. That section. It's so it will be very similar to that. But a lot of those trees are within the road corridor that we need to extend.
Sorry, I'm only talking about the one mature tree. I'm just trying to understand where the one mature tree is.
There is more than one mature tree that's coming down, but the
sorry.
one that's in the road corridor is in really poor condition. It's all lopsided. Next to, is it the medical centre? No, well, it's a bit further down than that. But it was, yeah.
So are you talking, Yanni, about the one large tree at the end of paragraph 2.1? Is that the specific one that you're referring to?
In the arborist report,
Which page in our report are you looking at? In our agenda?
459.
459.
459.
Yeah.
And then which 2.1, 2.2, 2.3? Which paragraph?
2.2.
2.2.
Sorry, 2.1.
2.
The size of the trees on existing CC land to be removed includes, and it's got 18 small, 9
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if that's
medium.
the reserve tree.
So
or
you're
the
talking
road
about
tree.
the one large
one
tree.
large
at the
size
end.
tree.
Yeah.
I just found it quite hard looking at the diagrams and the maps to find out where that tree that was proposed to be removed. But I was interested in whether it was in poor condition or not. It's probably in the small print in the arborist report, but it's quite hard as you can
Some of the
appreciate.
trees that are coming out aren't in poor condition, and some of the actually quite big size trees are not in poor condition. But as a panel, we did walk the length and looked. We had a map with all the trees on it and went down one by one
So the
and had some really thorough looks at all of those. And where we could, we worked around trees.
So in that context, is there an answer to where is this one large tree that's referred to at the bottom of paragraph 2.1 in the arborist report, and is it in poor condition? They're the two specific questions that Yanni's got about this one specific tree.
Council, unfortunately, don't have that report with me. Do you perhaps have the property number?
It's not next to it. There would be in the table. Would have been nice to have this ahead of time, Yanni.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So one of the questions, though, is this one tree going to make a difference to how you vote on this? And if not, is it worth our time?
Yeah, let's go. I'll ask some other questions. What's the journey saving time that's proposed for this project? And how are we going to measure and monitor the benefit that we're expecting to get from the level of investment around journey saving time?
I don't have the exact time with me, Councillor. It's including for obviously travelling from Horswell in line with Wakakotai and the first section. So it's providing that central link. And the frequency on it would be every 10 minutes. The bus frequency will be on at them. But the actual time saved based on we only had the data pre-COVID on the numbers that's on the buses, that's included in the report. However, on the specific seconds saving, unfortunately, I can't comment on that now.
I missed it in the report, but I couldn't find reference to the journey saving times.
Yeah. So there may be some saving, but the key thing is that you're not getting stuck in traffic all the time. So the bus journey is reliable. It's the same time every day, no matter what the traffic, if it's raining, if it's sunny, if it's school holidays or not, you get the same journey time, so your trip in is reliable. And we know that reliability of service is a key driver of people using it.
And how will we monitor the benefits of the investment?
the investment for the PT.
Yeah.
The same way we'll monitor all the benefits across the LTP program that we're doing. We're looking for journey time reliability. We're looking to, as we've worked with ECAN, we're looking to achieve the levels of service that you've asked us to achieve as part of a long-term plan.
Right, but we keep getting reports saying that we're failing in those targets.
Because we don't have enough infrastructure.
And a lot of the targets around PT and Transport Network are long-term ones. If we don't make these changes, we won't get the uplift. So the point is to have a reliable program, a reliable network, as Councillor Templeton just talked to.
Yeah, I guess the one concern that one of the concerns I've got is from the presentation that I initially saw from Waka Kotahi, is further up they were proposing to put in a lot of signalised crossings and traffic lights, and so it would seem that that would sort of be at risk of sort of reducing the reliability because of the increased stopping that was required for PT. So is anyone looking at the further...
We're working together with
sections
Waka
of the-
Kotahi on the network along the route. Buses stopping and starting is different to buses being caught in traffic, and what we're trying to do is get them through the traffic. So the lights can be, the signals can be worked in order to facilitate buses getting through the traffic.
Right.
All right, thank you. So we've got a question from Jimmy. We've got questions from Jimmy and then from Phil and Aaron. So Jimmy, Phil and Aaron. Jimmy.
Thank you, Chair. I follow the same question regarding the budget because at the moment the detailed design not yet complete. Am I right? When the detailed design will be complete?
Once we have approval.
Yes.
Yes. So it's so the plan is currently it's forecasted within FY24.
Yes.
However, we would like to bring the project forward if possible.
Yes.
So the key will be to commence detailed design as soon as possible.
Okay, that's good. So currently the estimate $12 million. Not yet been revised. The construction price increase. Am I right? So, but next year, new council will review those the long-term plan. Am I right? They might have considered revise on the financial year 24 to 27 revise.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so sticking with questions, Phil and then Aaron. Phil.
Thank you. Sarah will probably be able to ask this. In those photos, Sarah, that are on there,
Trees.
Really?
But is that the photos you mean, though? The trees? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
These ones. So they're termed a tree, whereas you,
According
you
to the
and
arborist.
I would term them a shrub.
When it comes to canopy cover for the city,
Yeah.
we only assess things that are 3 metres and above, and many of these are not 3 metres. So these trees that the arborist called trees that we're going to have to remove to get the bus lanes in aren't ones that would count for our canopy cover anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, no, I've got no problem with it. Is it like, how many trees did you say was coming out?
36.
And these shrubs would be part of that 36?
Absolutely.
I don't, yeah, so we're not
There
really...
are
we're not really
several large trees
Yeah,
that
yeah, sure,
are quite
sure.
nice, but yeah.
But in essence, we're not really taking many trees out at all if you're...
Yeah, and there's over 70 going back in.
Yeah, no, we're far better off.
If you think about places like Memorial Avenue, Fenelton Road, Linwood Avenue, these main ways into the city that have got trees on them, like proper trees, street trees down the middle of the road, those kind of things, are streets that people really like. They're gateways to the city, and they have a much higher amenity, both pedestrians and drivers and whoever else is going down. And so that's what this project will do.
No, I've got no problem with that.
All right, so the question has been asked and answered?
Yeah, so,
Yep.
sorry.
What
no,
I'm trying to avoid is just a lot of dialogue across the table when what I really want is succinct questions and succinct answers.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Aaron.
Just 2 quick questions. One is with the number of no right turns, so there's some changes there. Do we model how much, when you change someone's pattern, say there's 20 people down a street with a car, that the extra distance they'll now drive, and then we measure that and factor it into the overall benefits or not of the project when we have no right turns?
So yes, that has been included and calculated, and we, especially if the right turn banning at Domain Terrace, We did see that obviously there will be a slight increase at Littleton on the right turn, and that's why we proposed that there will be a green arrow, which is currently not there. So it's that circulation. Then, however, there are other benefits, like people coming from Annex Road will have that opportunity to the dedicated U-turn bay. So instead of all those properties going around the block, they'll have it right at the bottom and a U-turn bay there. So it had minimal impact. However, yes, that was included in the modelling.
Right, so there's some unders and overs in there.
Correct. So a prime example is because Torrance Road is being blocked, there were 80 additional properties that needs to go via Sylvan Street. However, that also had minimal impact on the network.
Right, so it doesn't increase the distance much, just the actual.
Correct.
Okay, that's good. And then the other one, something that Yanni and I've been asking for only around 10 years, or slightly over, but is the evidence that the bus lanes work, that they get more people on buses, because it's $12 million and it's puts everyone else in one lane, so that has a carbon increase when you slow other traffic. So the bus lanes.
So the question is the evidence that is there evidence that the interventions like this work if the measure is getting more people on buses?
Yeah. So the answer is yes, there is evidence. I don't have it today, I'm sorry, and it's not necessarily based here in Christchurch, but there is worldwide evidence, as Councillor Templeton talked to, that ensuring that your PT trips are reliable and you can rely on how long it's going to take you, and you can also rely on the fact that when you walk out your door and down to the bus stop, it is going to be there. If it says it's going to be there, that improves PT uplift. We have a whole number of other issues in our society at the moment that we are dealing with, and none of these solutions are short-term solutions, and you don't see a quick result. We are building these facilities for the future Christchurch.
But other cities are very, very different to ours, so it's hard to compare.
Well, the question has been asked and answered, and I deliberately rephrased it so that it was easy to answer.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I wasn't clear enough because my colleague next to me is going, are they? Yes, 4,000 people per square kilometre density is a lot different to 280. It's quite different. So it means you've got a lot more people near your public transport, so it does make a big difference.
So is the international research relevant
Yes.
to this situation?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it'll be good to see it,
Yep.
but more so than that, isn't it important that we do our own research to go, hey, we put a bus route on Papanui Road or wherever, or Colombo Street back pre-quake, and these were the uptake in numbers. Yes, this did happen, this happened.
And pre-quake, we had a massive uptake in numbers because of the facilities that we put in, and there's been changes since, and our society has faced particularly here in Christchurch, has faced a number of changes, and we're not here to debate this with you at every meeting, and we're looking to see how we can provide you that advice.
We don't want to debate it either. We just want to see it once.
So, but there is also clear
evidence
that in order to meet, and you as council have declared a climate emergency, and you have a clear strategic objective for us to do everything we can to meet the climate challenges that we have, and there is clear evidence worldwide that improving your PT system, getting more people on a single vehicle, is better for the environment than having everybody driving their own cars.
And we have levels of service that we set through
to
annual
address that.
long-term plans and annual
Absolutely.
plans around reliability and journey times.
Yes.
So all of this is aligned with
But not-
the overall strategic position that we have agreed.
Yeah, but
It
Mr.
is a
Chair, not
long-term-
passenger numbers.
And it's a long-term trip for you, to
Yeah.
use a transport analogy.
Yeah.
Long-haul trip.
All right, so
Bus-
I've got...
Can I just say bus passenger numbers are now up on our council website, and the key indicators in our climate stuff, and they're available in the ECAN agendas too.
They are.
Great.
Okay. We now need to conclude any further questions on this. So I've got Phil and Melanie. Phil.
Thanks, Lynette. On the picture, it may be just on the plans, it might only be drawn that way. In the long run, the whole road will be asphalted wall to wall, or just the margins that we're working on? So when the road is finished, will the whole thing be re-asphalted?
The road surface
Yes.
will be appropriate to the use, and for the road surface, I'll tell you what it is.
No, it won't be the complete route be resurfaced. Where applicable, if it's poor quality, then yes, it will be included as part of the project.
Okay, because down at the town end at the moment where Isaac's working, they're doing the margins, which is cool, and that's working there. But it's all.
When we do a project, and when we deliver a project, we're looking to deliver the best value for the community that we can. So that doesn't always mean we go in and resurface the whole road if there isn't a need to do it. As we've talked to in the past, we are looking to do that appropriately moving forward, and it'll be the same on this project.
Thank you. Melanie?
If Sarah's all right with that, wanting to move it because this is in my ward.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, thank you. Well, that's a perfect sequencing into the next part then. So this is moved by Melanie and seconded by Sarah. All right, so moved Melanie, seconded Sarah. Is there any discussion? Melanie?
Just quickly to say that the community board was fully supportive of this in their submission. Yeah.
Short and sweet. That's good. Thank you. Any other?
The other point was also that there will be bus lanes the entire way. There will be no breaks in the bus lanes from Hallsville all the way up to Morehouse Ave. So there is no way that this cannot be effective.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate the work that has been done on this, and I hope that the benefits that are proposed do get achieved. But it is hard to see from these reports around the benefits that we're aiming, other than a very high level, improved reliability. But I do think as a council, we do need to actually put some metrics in place where we can clearly measure the impact of our spending. The other irony, I think, is that we still haven't had really a plan for light transit, rapid transit. So you start to think, like, what's happening with mass transit in the city? Where's the vision? This is one of the fastest growing areas of the city. And if you were ever going to look at a corridor for rapid transit, it would seem like this would actually make a lot of sense. So I'm kind of concerned that we're so far behind in that decision and discussion that we're then approving these bus priority lanes. But I totally understand the importance of this. I am concerned about some of the safety aspects as well, and I hope that there can be a process to review it as it goes forward, just to ensure that if there are safety concerns with how things are running, then they can be addressed. But fundamentally, the idea of having people catching public transport from Hallsville to the city centre makes a lot of sense because of the growth. But I just think we do need to get clearer about the way in which we measure our levels of investment into public transport, because for the number of years that I've been sitting around this council table, despite the fact that we've been investing in these things where we're told that there will be benefits, actually in our levels of service, we see consistently from month to month that we're failing to achieve the targets that we set. So I do think at some point we need to think about what we actually do differently to get better outcomes than just doing things that we've done in the past, because that might lead to a better future. But I just want to acknowledge the work that's been done on this. I appreciate there's been a lot of effort put into saving the trees, which, and I appreciate what people have said. I do think we need to get the urban forest plan in place sooner rather than later, because, having tree canopy lost for 20 years when we take out trees for these sorts of projects, to me, is just not acceptable. And we do need to have a much more aggressive approach to replacing the lost canopy coverage when we decide on these sorts of projects. But I'm happy to support, but it is a project that I will be watching with interest and hoping that there is good measurement of its investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam?
Just really briefly, I'm happy to support it as well. I think we could give it a chance, and if it doesn't work, at least we'll have 2 lanes on either side of the road to look at other modes. So I don't think it's the end of the world today, and we might as well utilise that NZTA subsidy, knowing that actually if this doesn't, like Aaron has referred to, stack up and begin to provide benefit, we can change that.
Thank you. Aaron?
I'm surprised Joni's going to support, is actually happy to support it. But the I'm actually not happy to support it, and I'll do a few groans around the table, so I'll let you get your groans out. Right, there we go. Can we move on? For me, the reason is that the numbers just, and like Yanni pointed out, we're failing our targets. We're not getting there. And the point I'll raise today, I won't raise any of the others from the past, is that this council's declared a climate change emergency or crisis, or whichever one you want to call it this week. We've declared it, and the thing is, if you want to do something about it, we have a limited budget. We can't just keep printing and borrowing money. There is a pot size that you can spend on climate change, and is this the best $12 million you can spend on climate change when we're not seeing more people on the buses? If we do see more people on the buses, great, but the ones that are coming down the bus lane on Cranford Street with 6 people on average is not saving the planet. And so $12 million is 1.2 million trees we could plant in this city in the coming year. They could all be natives. So think how you spend it. Grown all you want. Think how you spend your money, but back it up with actual evidence and start saving the planet, not saving your virtues.
Sarah.
I'm still waiting for the evidence that bus lanes don't get people out of cars and things like that. And it's interesting both to see colleagues putting forward this as a project that will potentially be a great car facility in the future, and also gaslighting us on the emissions. And interestingly, it only takes 5 passengers on a bus for it to be more efficient than the same number of cars on the road. And so having 6 on the bus is a really good move. The bus that I catch into town in the mornings is chock-a-block full, standing room only on the 28, and that's been really good and increasing as well. But what is this report? This report is not a report on the overall bus network. It's not a report on mass rapid transit. It's not even a report on why bus lanes work. It's a report where the hearings panel was asked to make a recommendation on the design of the bus lanes that council had already decided to do. And that's what we're here to decide today. As a country, we have a climate target. As a city, we have a target. There are going to be vehicle kilometres travelled reduction targets for us as a city set by December this year. That's in the emissions reduction plan. That is likely to be, I would think, around 25% reduction in BKT by 2030. As a city, if we're going to get there, we need to give people good, reliable options so that they can get in. In Auckland currently, more people go over the Harbour Bridge in the mornings during the rush hour on a bus than they do in a car. And that's because the buses are really efficient, they're reliable, and there's a lot of them, they're really frequent. Mass rapid transit, absolutely, that needs to be in place, but it takes a long time. The planning, yes, way too slow, but it takes a long time to actually put that in place, and it's going to be billions. So for $12 million, getting people on buses connecting up these 2 sections is actually a really good deal. You cannot be both for climate action and keep telling people that you believe in the climate emergency and consistently find excuses to vote against measures to reduce emissions. Thank you.
Mike.
Thanks. I'll be supporting this. It's actually a very good initiative, and to link up Lincoln Roadside actually is complete. It's going to be hugely beneficial. Look, I think the reality is actually as a council, city council, and I believe the regional council, ECAN, we've let down public transport through lack of investment. And when you look at our long-term plan, we've got less than 7% of the transport budget goes into public transport. You know, that pretty much tells us why we struggle to get huge PT numbers. But I believe that actually with the PT futures that we have obviously approved and it will get implemented, we can change that around. But it's not just the bus routes and priority lanes, it's also the frequencies as well, and also the types of buses which will help reduce emission. And I think this term we've actually worked quite collaboratively with ECAN and have made a big step change in our direction where we want public transport to head. We've just seen Environment Canterbury reduce their fees, which is going to be huge. We saw with the government putting hard price, the big uptake that had in patronage. This is the right thing to do, and it's always a shame when we come to things like public transport or cycling. We have the constant critics of that don't believe that they're actually going to create significant benefits to environments and people's way of life, when we know they do. And it's a shame that when we have international experts say Christchurch is different to every other international city in the world. We're not actually that unique, and it's actually really important to look at what evidence is around to take the best stuff and actually apply it here. I don't take the bus often, but the few times I have, actually they have been busy, and it's been really impressive to actually go past cars that are parked waiting in stationary queues because of congestions. And you do not solve congestion by building more roads. That's known. That just increases the amount of cars coming in, which will increase pollution, and everyone just gets into the same position. By actually giving people true alternative mode choice, that's how you actually start to move people around. And as a council, that's what we have been doing, and we'll see the benefits of that very, very shortly. And I think when you look at some of the existing bus lanes, we already do. So it's a shame we have the constant moaners about public transport. Maybe you should try riding it sometime, and you'll see the benefits yourself when there's a priority lane.
All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? So Aaron against. That's carried. Thank you.